I always wanted to give an impression of a sort of professor giving a slideshow presentation, which is why I almost exclusively use still images. For this video, I'll be toying around with an attempt to make the actual video look like a slideshow presentation. Despite being an integral necessity of the human experience, friendship is an inherently weird thing. You decide, through a process that is far beyond my intelligence to explain, that out of the billions of people that inhabit this planet, you'd like to spend an inordinate amount of time occupying space in close proximity with one particular flesh bag. This can sometimes happen against your will, such as the placement of your seat during your education time slots, the dice roll of what lurks within the domiciles bordering your domicile, or what beings have also chosen your particular method of accruing slips of paper covered in numbers and pictures of old white dudes and a pyramid that is definitely not a symbol of a shadow organization comprised of alien lizards. These things don't always lead to a friendship, but can often facilitate one. If there is one thing that rivals this bizarre selection method, it's how easily it can be undone. A change in the aforementioned location-based circumstances, one of the parties encountering a third party that they want to occupy space with, or, in the saddest cases, nothing. Sometimes friendships just end, with neither side really having a clear idea of why. It's not a case of looking back and wondering, why the hell did I ever like this fucker? Something has just changed. This is a video about the Banshees of Inisherin. A while back, I was looking at Reddit. I feel guilt-spurred to clarify that I was not browsing Reddit. God, no. Reddit exists in a strange dichotomy. If you need an answer to a question, preferably one that has an objectively correct answer, such as a technical problem, a solution to a puzzle in a game, or a piece of trivia, Reddit is the place to go. Googling your question and adding the word Reddit to the end of it will almost guarantee that you'll have a solution to your problem within a few clicks. Other destinations are much less desirable. Websites that turn every single video game puzzle solution into an entire article by preempting the answer with paragraphs of filler info about the game and banner ads between each paragraph. YouTube videos taking what should be a 20-second video and stretching it for time-based ad revenue milestones by essentially doing the verbal equivalent of the previous example. Or, more recently, an AI-generated answer at the top that will tell you what a wonderful pizza topping Elmer's glue makes. That actually happened. I get that it's an evolving technology, but maybe don't implement it until it's not going to, kill people. While quick, objective answers are the nice, clean surface of the Reddit iceberg, what lies beneath is a bastard child of George Orwell and Franz Kafka that will leave you questioning not only your faith in humanity, but your faith in reality. Overzealous mods that have essentially made an unpaid career out of cosplaying as the Emperor from Gladiator. A sea of hate where time and tide only changes who and what it is and isn't okay to hate, never questioning the hate itself. Ravenous fan bases that both hate and love their sub as they hate and love themselves. They will never be rid of their Reddit. This is a video about the Banshees of Inisherin. Like most, I always clicked the button to continue with my browser when prompted to download the Reddit app on my phone. Why would I ever download an app and make an account just to quickly check the accuracy of a Lord of the Rings quote so I can jokingly use it in a dumb YouTube video? Unfortunately, a change was eventually made, and anything deemed mature, which seems to encompass anything outside of My Little Pony, and yes, I'm using that as an example for maximum irony. So, fine, now I have another app on my phone, whatever. The issue is with how navigation works in the app, and I must stress that it didn't do this when I first started using it, only after about a year. Thus, it is most certainly an intentional update. Clicking a Google search link opens the app. Fine so far. I look at the top voted answer, and now I know how to get that weapon I wanted in Elden Ring. I hit the back button, but instead of being taken back to my browser, I'm taken to a Reddit feed based, I would assume, on subs I'd follow. Except I don't follow any, so it's just based haphazardly on things I've searched recently. As a side note, I have a similar issue with YouTube. While with Reddit, it's just a mild annoyance on a site I'm not using, on YouTube, it's infuriating. I made a 40-minute rant video about it on another channel, and it's my highest viewed video on that entire channel. A half-drunken rant filmed on my phone is the highest viewed video on a channel that I ran for 5 years. I won't link it here because I don't use that channel anymore, and also I'm about to sum up what the rant was about anyway. YouTube's video suggestion algorithm has the memory of a plank of wood. It bases itself entirely on the last few videos I watched. Not on my subscriptions, not on my general watch history, just the last few videos I watched. Why is this a problem? Because like most people, I occasionally click on a video out of curiosity and then move on with my day. Maybe a deep dive into a character from an old show I liked. Maybe a cheating scandal in some gaming community. Maybe just an auto-played music video from an artist I don't care for that got thrown into a mix I put on. And boom, 70% of my video suggestions on the main page are clips from that old show I liked, music from someone I can't stand, and gameplay from a game that I don't care about beyond enjoying some juicy video game cheater drama. I'm not much for drama, but cheating at a video game is a particular level of pathetic that gives me just the right dose of schadenfreude. I should clarify that I'm talking about cheaters in competitive multiplayer and speedrunning. Cheating in a single-player game for your own enjoyment, or because you like the atmosphere and lore of a genre and don't want to deal with the sadistic difficulty level, is just fine. Seriously, stop gatekeeping how people enjoy games. It's pathetic. And this is coming from someone squarely in the camp of, please give me another 20 lashings, Miyazaki-senpai. I love how it hurts so good. So I have to, on a daily basis, go into my watch history and delete anything that isn't part of my regular viewing habits. It's fucking annoying. But back on topic. When I find myself on that randomized page of Reddit, I hit the back button again. This is where it gets weird. Sometimes that second hit will take me back to my web browser. Sometimes it takes me to the Reddit homepage with a more homogenized feed. I refuse to believe that this is not by design. Now I get that I could just hit the other button to bring up my apps and move back over to my browser manually, but as annoying as what I just described is, it's still less work than doing that. Not to mention that sometimes manually going back to the browser that way just opens back up the redirect URL that opens the app. Like a hypothetical fourth Human Centipede movie where the Nazi guy grows a Tony Stark goatee and tries to create a self-sustaining Ouroboros-pede. Now I kind of want that movie to exist. What can I say? I grew up on trauma films, and I just love that kind of schlock. This is a video about the Banshees of Inisherin. It was during one of my attempts to find my way back to my web browser that I saw a post about the Banshees of Inisherin, asking which character was in the right and which was in the wrong. I didn't bother clicking it because the question itself is inherently flawed, and it being on Reddit means that it could only ever lead to answers that are exponentially flawed. Now, I'd prefer to continue this existential crisis disguised as a YouTube video under the assumption that the viewer has either seen the movie and will continue watching it and understanding, or hasn't and will click off at this point until they do see it. But I realize there's a third group that may care just enough to watch the video, but not enough to watch the movie. I confess I fall into that category myself and have watched occasional videos about shows or movies I haven't seen. I only ever do that when I find myself snuggled in the Venn diagram of the specific aspect of the subject matter that the video is touching on interesting me, and knowing that I have no interest in actually seeing the subject matter. This most often happens with things like aforementioned video game scandals or videos about failed TV shows, like a series of videos I watched recently about something called the Seinfeld curse, which is a weird thing to call a curse when it's pretty much always a risky shot in the dark when one actor from a successful show tries to start a new show. So, to appease those of you snug like a bug in a rug in your own Venn diagrams, I will give an overview of the plot of the movie. Do take this overview with the understanding that you will be missing out on the theming, performances, atmosphere, pacing, and tone of the film. Off the coast of Ireland, there is a small island called Inisherin. No, I don't know if it's a real place. I hope it is, because the same director made In Bruges, and I've wanted to visit that place ever since I saw that movie. On the island lives a man named Pádraic Súilleabháin. This video will go down much easier if you just accept now that I'm going to butcher any pronunciations of these names. Played by Colin Farrell. He's on his way down to his best friend's house to invite him out to the pub for a pint. His friend is Colm's son Larry. Now, I think that if I'm going to float up here representing myself as a big brain with eyes, it's only fair that I disclose any and all times that I show myself to be a complete idiot. This man, played by Brendan Gleeson, is named Colm Doherty. They often refer to him as Colm's son Larry. This movie takes place about a decade ago and in another country, so I can only assume this is similar to when someone has two first names like Betty Sue or some shit. However, I didn't have subtitles on the first time I saw this movie, so I thought they were saying Colm's sonny Larry. I thought his name was Larry, and that his father was Colm, and this was just some weird-ass Gimli son of Gloin way of speaking. Spent the whole movie wondering what made him so special that he got that kind of title. I legitimately thought he was maybe part of some royal line or something. Did you know that this guy from the Hobbit trilogy is this dead dwarf holding the book, and this dude is the one dead inside the tomb? I didn't realize that until I was rereading the books a while back. I think the fact that my response was nothing more than, oh, huh, is a testament to the quality of that corporate dumpster fire wearing Tolkien's skinned-off face compared to the original trilogy. Though there is an edit I saw recently called the M4 Book Edit that you can download for free from the website that removes pretty much everything that wasn't in the book and makes it a somewhat enjoyable experience. They adapted a 3-novel trilogy into a great 3-movie trilogy, then stretched a single children's book that wasn't even as long as any of the books of the trilogy into its own trilogy like butter scraped across too much bread. Filled it with mind-numbing action sequences and member berries and called it a day. By their logic, I bet if they tried to adapt the Silmarillion, they'd make it into a Super Bowl commercial. This is a video about the Banshees of Inisherin. So, Pádraic, after getting the runaround, finds Colm at the bar, and Colm tells him to sit somewhere else. Everyone, including Pádraic, is confused by this behavior. After a confrontation, Colm explains that he just doesn't like Pádraic anymore. Back at home, Pádraic is understandably depressed, until he awakens the next day and sees that the previous day was the 1st of April. He heads out in search of Colm to congratulate him on his well-played prank, only to learn that it wasn't a prank. This time, Colm gives a more in-depth explanation for why he doesn't want to be Pádraic's friend anymore. He finds Pádraic to be a dull person, which he admittedly is, and as he's gotten older, I'll let him explain it.
I just have this tremendous sense of time slipping away in me, Pádraic. And I think I need to spend the time I've left thinking and composing and just trying not to listen to any more of the dull things that you have to say for yourself, but I'm sorry about it. I am like...
Or I'll put the quote up on the screen if the clip gets this video copyright claimed. I should mention now that I'm skipping over a lot of scenes and characters, such as Pádraic's sister, Siobhan, or the village idiot played by that guy that played the village idiot in Still Game. Quick editor's note. I went online to grab a picture of his character from Still Game and discovered that it's not actually the same actor. It's been like 10 years since I've seen the show, and they look very similar, so you be the judge on if I'm a dumbass or not. I also saw him in Saltburn and Killing of a Sacred Deer. I have no idea if he's an unfortunate victim of typecasting or just likes playing awkward weirdos. If the latter, more power to him. There's also an old woman who plays a character that I've technically mentioned several times, but you wouldn't understand unless you saw the film, and I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, after Pádraic's sister confronts Colm about his behavior, and the village priest brings it up during Colm's confessional because Pádraic asked him to, in a scene I will not spoil because you need to see this fucking movie, it is a goddamn trip. Colm goes to Pádraic and gives him an ultimatum. Stop bothering me, or I'll cut off one of my fingers. And now for the most on-the-nose, obvious insertion of a clip ever.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Things go okay for a few days, Colm enjoying his peace, and Pádraic sulking and wondering if there's any way to get his friend back. Then one night at the pub, Pádraic gets drunk off his tits, yells at Colm, and then leaves. Colm comments that that's the most interesting he's ever been. This comment will be important in a moment. The next day, Pádraic goes to Colm to apologize for this outburst, intending to leave it at that. But that ends up being Colm's breaking point, and chop chop, finger thrown at his door like how UPS delivers a delicate package. You know, after years of trying to be successful doing Let's Plays and becoming more and more disillusioned with the process and hating it, I decided to move on and focus on creative endeavors that, while not likely to be successful, I at least enjoy making. This channel being one of them. I did one single recording session of some content for a different channel. I have 3. This one where I poorly sing along to songs I like, and an analog horror series that I'm messing around with. I'll link them in the description if you want to go throw proverbial tomatoes at them. I put my microphone away gently in a drawer, and the next time I took it out, it wasn't working. I'm not going to get into the weeds of it, but I have some mental health problems, and my microphone breaking right after I decided to ditch something I wasn't enjoying and focus on things I do enjoy making, my microphone being the one single piece of equipment necessary for all 3 creative endeavors, it kind of felt like cosmic targeted harassment. I continued chugging along using the microphone off my webcam, which is obviously of a poorer quality. But then I read that on some mics, the USB port can short, but the XLR will still be fine. So I waited a month until I got paid and bought the cheapest, but still well-reviewed XLR interface I could find on Amazon. And wouldn't you know it, the fucking thing works. I had to cover the bottom half of my microphone with duct tape though, because when I was opening it up to inspect if anything had come loose, I lost the screws. Well, lost one of them, and the other one broke when I was trying to put it back in. Not the fault of the microphone. It's a nice Samson that I got for $100. It was an issue of a very large screwdriver attached to a very small bit and a complete lack of any concept of the word torque. So I decided to order a few things, since I still have Prime right now. For some reason, Amazon just offers me a free month of Prime roughly every 8 months or so. So I accept it, make some orders, get caught up on some shows. Invincible Season 3 was great. And then I cancel it. I'm 2 days from when it's supposed to renew, so I ordered this shit for free same-day delivery with the intent to cancel once it arrived. My XLR interface arrived, my new boom arm for the mic arrived, a case of energy drinks arrived. I quit drinking soda 2 years ago, but I keep some energy drinks on hand to have one if I'm going to be doing yard work or something that day. But one item was delayed, and I wasn't informed of this delay until right around the end of the expected delivery window. It was a bottle of Pepto-Bismol. I am very, very ill while writing this script. That was yesterday, and I am still ill. I've paused and went to the toilet 3 times while writing this script. And it's a wonder why I never pay for Prime. This is a video about the Banshees of Inisherin. In a display of just how much of an idiot he is, Pádraic puts the finger in his shoebox and says that in a bit he'll go give it back to Colm. Siobhan asks,
Are you feckin' stupid? I mean, are you feckin' stupid?
So she grabs the box and returns it to him. Unlike Pádraic, Colm doesn't mind talking to her as she's very well read and learned. He tries to chat casually with her about the weather. I thought on my first watch that they might have been building towards some sort of romance subplot, as there are multiple times, including one coming up, where Colm says something to Siobhan that catches her off guard. I'm glad that didn't go there, not just because of the age difference, but also because the expressions on her face during those moments that I mistook for interest is actually introspection that sends Siobhan on her own personal journey that is beyond the scope of this video. She shoots down his small talk and asks what he needs to stop all of this. He reiterates that he just wants Pádraic to leave him alone, saying this is about one boring man leaving another man alone. She corrects him, stating,
"One boring man, you're all feckin' boring. With your piddling grievances over nothing, you're all feckin' boring."
She asserts that she'll make sure Pádraic doesn't speak to him again. He warns that if she fails, he'll cut off all 4 remaining fingers next time, not just the one. She replies that she thinks he might be ill. If you've found yourself thinking that I've gone into a lot more detail of this scene than the previous ones, I have, and for good reason. Because this is when Colm delivers a line that hit me personally in a deep place that I have no intention of talking about in this video.
Do worry sometimes that I'm just entertaining myself while I stave off the inevitable. Don't you?
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
For over a decade, I've held that my favorite movie is In Bruges. Every time I rewatch The Banshees of Inisherin, it creeps up a little closer to taking that number 1 spot, and this line plays a massive role in that paradigm shift. This is not a video about The Banshees of Inisherin. This is a video about my struggle with loneliness and lack of close friendships. To quote the legend Bob Ross, I played a little sneaky on you. The filler rants that have been breaking up the recap of the film are in fact the video. The recap of the film is the filler. Well, filler is a bit harsh. It's a necessary companion piece to explain how this movie has affected me. There's something this movie does that I think is very clever and at least a little brave. But to properly explain it, we'll need to finish with the recap. That line from before, when Colm comments on Pádraic's drunken outburst being the most interesting he's ever been, word of that makes its way back to Pádraic, who ends up taking it as a sign that Colm just wants him to be more confident and rough. Basically, let a bit of the Pádraic that only comes out when he's drunk come out and stay out. So he heads down to Colm's house, kicks down his door, and throws some insults at him. They talk a bit, and this may just be me reading too into things, but it seems Colm briefly enjoys talking to him. Until it's made clear that all that was just an act, and Pádraic is still the simple-minded buddy boy he's always been. Once he thinks he's back in Colm's good graces, he asks Colm about the tune he's been working on. I haven't mentioned this until now, and perhaps I should go back and edit the script to include it, but...
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Over the course of the movie, we've seen Colm slowly working on a fiddle tune. The loss of one of his fingers changes a bit of what notes he can hit, but he leans into it and takes it down a harsher road. He tells Pádraic that he's just finished the tune and that he's titled it The Banshees of Inisherin. Pádraic comments that there are no banshees on Inisherin. Colm agrees, but then says,
I know, I just like the double SH sounds.
Right. There's plenty of double SH on Inisherin.
Yeah, maybe they're banshees too. I just don't think that they scream to portend death anymore. I think they just sit back, amused, and observe.
And there's definitely not a character I've left out of this summary that fits that definition to a T.
Well, that's great that you finish your tune, Colin. That's more than great. That's
That's just fucking great!
Pádraic seems to think that now that the tune is complete, things can go back to normal, again showing how dim he is. He invites Colm out for drinks and suggests that maybe he could go up ahead and order them in. Colm tells him to go ahead and do that, and once Pádraic is gone, he picks up the shears he used to take off the first finger and closes the door. After sitting in the pub for a few hours, Siobhan, whose name I've spelled 5 different ways in this script because when I get going in the writing process, I develop whatever the fuck the opposite of writer's block is, and I can't stop even long enough to check the spelling of something. This is how I've always written. Scripts for this channel, yes, but also my poetry and many unpublished novels. I once wrote a full novel in one night without taking a single break. I've since given it dozens of rewrites and added chapters to flesh it out, but the skeleton of this Rome was built in a day. Or night. Anyway, this is part of why I decided to run this channel the way I do. A seed of a thought, planted, nurtured, and cultivated without any outside interference. Part of it is, as I've stated before, and in the disclaimers at the start of all these, to maintain that little shower thought which, while likely filled with inaccuracies, contains a type of raw purity that simply cannot exist in a well-researched video essay. I hold no delusions that this format is at all interesting to anyone but myself, but as we've covered, that's my target demographic for the first time in my life. And trust me, this change is one of the only things keeping me. Siobhan shows up at the pub and tells Pádraic they need to talk. Why they need to talk is a subject for Siobhan's part of the story, and that's outside the scope of this video. If you're wondering why I'm leaving these things out, it's not because it's overly complicated. I've intentionally structured this script to leave out a lot of key elements of the movie. Not for brevity. Hell, this is the longest script I've written for any of these videos. I'm not telling their tales because in some half-assed artsy way, I want to mirror my feelings of solitude and loneliness with what Pádraic experiences. People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down. This is a video about isolation. This is a video about identity. This is a video about the fragility of friendships. This is a video where I'm just entertaining myself while I stave off the inevitable. While walking home, Pádraic and Siobhan see Colm approach and pass them. They see his hand, or the lack of one. We cut to them inside the house, Siobhan packing her bags to leave immediately. After a futile attempt to convince her to stay, he eventually heads out to the cliffside near the pier to wave her goodbye. When he returns home, the fingers that were on the porch are missing, a trail leading out back. He follows it and finds his little pet donkey, Jenny, dead. Having choked while attempting to eat the random bits of meat she just discovered on the porch, unaware of the hard interior of this reverse Kinder Surprise. Yes, that's a joke. Dark humor helps me cope. And yes, I have intentionally left out any mention of his pet donkey during this script. We sometimes go surprising, shocking, maybe even shameful amounts of time without thinking about those that we've lost. I'm not clever, but this is the one time where I started a script for a video with the ending already in mind. Or started anything really. I don't storyboard my books. I just make characters and let them surprise me with the journeys they take me on. I started this script silly on purpose, including anecdotes about lost Pepto-Bismol that, while true, were only included to mask the darkness of how this story ends. When I say this story, am I talking about the movie? Even I don't know anymore. But we're at the precipice, so let's finish it. After mourning Jenny's death and burying her, Pádraic picks up a lantern and approaches the mirror. Bashing the lantern into the mirror, it fractures into many pieces and we see him leave. He heads to the pub, where he finds Colm with some of his music students. Laid out on the table are sheets of music smeared in blood, and we hear what the final form of the Banshees of Inisherin sounds like. Whether that's how it all sounds, or whether he incorporated the calmer parts he wrote earlier on, we don't know. Colm approaches Pádraic and says he doesn't need any apologies, he's relieved that it's done, and holds out his remaining hand to shake and suggests that they call this the end and agree to go their separate ways. After informing Colm of what happened to his fingers and the death that resulted, he calmly informs Colm that the next day he's going to go to Colm's house and set fire to it, and that hopefully Colm will still be inside when he does.
I killed a miniature donkey. It was by accident, but I do feel bad about it.
Do you think God gives a damn about miniature donkeys, Colin?
I fear he doesn't. And I fear that's where it's all gone wrong.
True to his word, the next day he gathers some wood, gas, and a few lanterns, and turns Colm's house into a funeral pyre. Despite stating that he won't be checking whether Colm's still inside, he can't help himself. Looking through a burning window, we see Colm sitting in his rocking chair, calmly smoking. Pádraic leaves, but when he returns the next day, he finds a window broken and Colm standing out by the shore, a bit worse for wear, but alive. When he approaches, Colm states that he supposes that his house makes them even. Pádraic replies that it would have if he'd stayed in it. They part ways, and the credits roll. The implication being that this feud will continue until one of them are dead, both of them are dead, or worse. I stated earlier that this movie does something clever and brave. There's that old bit of writing advice that goes something like, is this the most interesting moment in your character's life? And if not, why aren't you showing us that? I've always despised that quote. I don't despise whoever the quote is by, which I can't remember and I'm not going to look up. I'll take a stab in the dark and say Dickens, and I'll put up on the screen in the editing process how laughably wrong I was. I hate the quote because how, like with most bits of writing advice, it's taken at face value as an absolute with no exceptions. Remember when I said I wrote a novel one night in a fiery haze? It's about someone who, at a young age, brushes against something exciting that would have changed his entire life. Just as quickly it's yanked away. The book follows him as an adult and only fleetingly touches on the excitement and adventure that happened away from him as he grew up. I won't go into any more details as I'd really like to publish that novel someday. But I bring it up because it goes against that bit of writing advice. Not only is this not the most interesting part of the character's life, he's not even the one with the interesting life in the story. That's the point, though. It's a story about missing out, a story about longing for something you can't have. But enough overly indulgent self-flagellation. Yes, I know what that word means, and I did not misuse it. Talking about my hopes and dreams is one of the most painful things for me to do these days. I think Nietzsche said something about hope being shit because it makes us suffer for longer or something like that. The Banshees of Inisherin starts when Colm has already decided that he no longer wants to be Pádraic's friend. We see nothing of what must have been a process of realization, denial, pity, and eventually determination. We don't ever get to see what they were like as friends, despite multiple characters commenting on how they were always together. At the same time, we are given no inkling of what recompense may follow Pádraic's declaration of war against his former friend. These are both story elements that would add a lot to what is there, flesh out a lot, explain a lot, satisfy a lot. But just like the ending to In Bruges, which I won't spoil here, and now that I think about it, like the endings to all 4 of the movies that Martin McDonagh has made, we are left wondering. Friendships are a weird thing. It's no coincidence that out of all the movies I like, I decided to cover this one. It's also no coincidence that I covertly made the script more about me than about the movie as it went on, or that I started with humorous, borderline ridiculous anecdotes before moving on to the serious stuff. This script played out just like the movie, and that was intentional. I've lost friends in my life. At the beginning of this entire mess, I listed some of the ways that friendships can end. I've experienced each of them at least once. The true tragedy of friendship is that sometimes there are no answers. For the story of the Banshees of Inisherin to work, it necessitated that Pádraic be a dull, limited man.
Who told you about the doll? Well, I overheard it.
This is so that we can empathize with him grasping at a friendship that he has been told not only is over, but told exactly why it's over. But in real life, it's not always that clear. Sometimes the dynamics of friendship shift, and neither party really knows why. It's heartbreaking. It's easy to see Pádraic as a needy, arrogant asshole for being so blind to the wants of someone he claims to care about. But in reality, he's just a grieving man who's in denial. This is a video about the Banshees of Inisherin, no matter how much part of me wants it to be otherwise. And this shower thought has gone on so long that the house is flooded and I'm completely submerged. And I don't know if I want to tread water or just let myself sink and be forgotten. But if I've done my job even remotely well, I think I've made it clear that sometimes it's okay to not know. Thank you for watching.